I am David Ito, Chief Instructor of the Aikido Center of Los Angeles. And with me is...
Mike Van Ruth, Aikido Center Los Angeles, 4th Dan Aikido, 4th Dan Iaido.
And Bill D'Angelo, Aikido Center of Los Angeles, 4th Dan Aikido. So maybe we start by welcoming Mike back to the podcast, who's been absent for the start of the second season.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, he was in COVID jail for
That's right.
38 days.
Yeah, it felt like an eternity.
I bet it did.
You feeling better?
Feeling better, and I'm very glad and very happy to be back to the dojo. I missed it very much.
Yeah, did you you have a new purpose on life after coming out?
New purpose in life and new outlook, because you don't realize you can have everything, all the money in the bank, but without your health, nothing means anything. Doesn't mean anything.
Is it Aristotle who said, or Socrates, your health is your first wealth?
I don't know. I don't think that was Socrates, but
whoever said it, it's true.
We should check to see who the attribution is for that quote.
Your health
and
is your first.
Put it up on the banner. Yeah. But it's good to see you back, Mike.
I'm glad to be back. I'm first podcast back.
And you taught second class today.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Fine.
It was good.
It was good. Had 3 people in class. I didn't have to take any chemi. So, hey, that's a positive.
And you gained back most of your weight?
Yeah, I went from 168 at my worst, and then I'm back to 184, so I'm moving the right trajectory.
Wow.
So. That's crazy amount of weight. So you probably lost 30 pounds while you're in that 30 days?
Yes.
It's the COVID diet.
Damn. Yeah, if you're up for it, great way to lose weight. But I'll tell you what, when you finally look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, whoa, you don't even recognize yourself.
Yeah.
Getting back to work, going and meeting with my clients and stuff like that, and they go, I almost didn't recognize you. I was like, but it's changing now. So
wow.
So Bill, what should we talk about this hour?
Well, we've talked a little bit offline about this, and we don't have a listener question this week, which is I'm sure we will next time. But we've got an offline discussion I think we're going to bring in today, which is for people that train. There are at least 2 different mentalities that we can talk about. One is the student mindset versus the customer mindset, and how does one teach to or interact with those 2 different mindsets? And so we kind of lay out those 2 mindsets, what those mindsets bring into the dojo. How do you teach those mindsets, and then what does it mean when you have those different mindsets in the dojo? So you have the customer on the one hand, and the dedicated student mindset. I know we talked about it offline a little bit, but maybe we can work this around as at least an initial topic for this memorial service to have Mike back in our podcast.
Well, that's a thing, right? Like Furuya Sensei hated the customer mentality.
What is the customer mentality?
That it's about business.
Business.
So in Japanese they say akinai konjo,
which means what?
The businessman's mindset, where the businessman will not bend over and show any respect unless there's money on the ground to be picked up.
So the customer mentality is, it's very Western mentality too, right? As you come in, you pay your fee, you get your classes, and the person thinks like they're buying the teacher's time. Maybe. Yeah, they're buying the teacher's time. Maybe they even think like, not in our dojo, but in some dojos, you pay for the number of classes. So maybe you pay $100 for 1 class a week, $200 for 2, $300 for 3, and maybe $500 for unlimited. But in our school, it's one price for everything, and that may be specifically designed that way.
Well, it's dues based. You pay your dues, as opposed to like if you go to yoga school, you either buy a monthly subscription or you buy per class. So it's like $25 a class. But they have different types of focuses. So a person who is a client or a customer, it's transactional.
Okay.
And a person who's a student, it's educational. You're trying to develop the student's attitude is you're trying to develop yourself so that you can become something.
Okay.
In the customer or client mindset, you're buying something. You're getting something for your money.
So what is so when you've run into this scenario, or maybe all three of us have run into this scenario. What is that customer mentality or the capitalist mentality have when they come to train? What is the mindset? How does that get in the way of training?
Well, it gets in the way because they're always thinking, what did I get for my money?
Okay.
And largely in traditional based training, what you get is not readily apparent for maybe 6 years.
Or longer.
So, right. So if you think about it from this mindset that you have a shift in consciousness every 6 years, right? And so when you're developing this momentum, a little bit more, it all starts to build up.
Right.
And then you have a breakthrough, which comes somewhere between 4 to 6 years, and you have a shift in consciousness. And that's how you go, oh no, I know Aikido now.
Right.
Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. But what ends up happening is that when you go to a transactional, you think, I paid for X and I got Y. I paid for this, I didn't get the thing I wanted. So then you're always trying to think about value. So like I had this personal training client a long time ago that over a year, he spent all this money with me. He ended up losing 30 pounds. He got in the greatest shape of his life, totally turned his life around.
Okay.
And so at the end of the first year, I said, I calculated how much you spent with me in this 1 year. Do you know how much it was? And he said, no. I said it was $10,000.
Wow.
But he trained, 4 to 6 times a week. So this guy spent over $10,000. And, mind you, that's not just like shakes and eating right and, all that. That's just on the hourly personal training. And I said, knowing what you know now, if I came to you and said it would have cost you 10 grand, would you have done it? He said, no, I wouldn't have done it. Because he said the sticker shock from 10 grand, there's no way I'm going to do that.
Even though he achieved a really high goal.
Right. Because if he was going to do this other goal, he wouldn't know that he was going to make it. So that 10 grand
would have been too high a price.
Yeah, too high of a price to pay. 4 grand, 1 grand, $50.
Right.
So see, you're getting something for your efforts. And so when you do martial arts, especially Aikido, what you get is not readily apparent. And so later on, all of a sudden you go, oh, my foot now moves like that. You can't see the incremental change in yourself. And then you think, oh, I'm not getting any better. And then you quit, not realizing that you did.
Right. And then so the Aikido student who comes in and he's looking and he's like, so the first experience that someone comes to our dojo or any dojo normally is they come in, they have to sign, I know we don't do it, but some dojos have they'll have a contract, you can sign for a year.
Yeah.
And you spend actually one of the first things is, we can probably talk about this, even though this isn't the actual topic, is often the first thing the person will say is, how long till I get my black belt? So that's like a transactional question.
Yeah.
That I think is very transactional. They want to know how much time to achieve a specific goal.
And then their calculating mind calculates how much it's going to cost.
Right. So let's say it's 5 years of training, X amount of dollars per month.
It's going to, oh man, it's going to cost me this much money?
Yeah, it was okay, now it's $15,000 to get my black belt.
And then the sensei just said that Shodan, first degree black belt, means the beginner? Right. So you mean I'm only paying all this money to become the beginner? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. And then they go, forget that.
So is there anything that we could do or that we do when a student comes in? Is there anything special that we are trained to do in that interaction to make it less transactional?
Not really, because Furuya Sensei does that whole Zen. He used to do that whole Zen thing where you call up and they go, "Hi, I'm interested in doing Aikido." Okay, great. Classes are this time. Well, can I ask you a question? Sure. How long does it take to become a black belt? He would say 5 years. And they said, what if I trained every day?
10 years.
He would say 10 years. No, you don't understand. What if I trained every day? He'd say 20 years.
Right. Yeah.
Because he didn't want you to focus on
the
goal of attainment. Because life is a journey. It's the toil. Day in and day out, you're going to have to recommit yourself without this carrot leading you the way.
See, that seems to me one of the most interesting things about the transactional versus the non-transactional is focusing on the everyday experience of training. But how do we how do we communicate that to a new student, even when they're in the signing up process? I know, like we have in the signing up process, you have to fill out a one-pager, a release, and then don't you normally give people like a copy of Kodo?
We give them a copy of Furuya Sensei's book, Kodo.
Student handbook.
We have a student handbook we give them. And even those things aren't strong enough to keep someone after that first month, that first week, right? Because again, what you thought Aikido is not what it is. So if you think about it from this point of view, when people go, I want to do Aikido, and they Google Aikido and they look at videos, they only see themselves as the nage. They don't see themselves as the uke. And then you go, okay, now I'm going to throw you down.
What?
And then you ding your head. You're like, shoot, that's not for me.
Right.
You know? And so you're learning a set of skills that it's a skill set that you're learning. You're not gaining a set of skills from your purchase, right? It's not like my kids hand me $5 and go, buy me these power gems for this game.
Right.
So I can power up. And it's not like that. There's no power up. The Aikido martial arts is about the toil. It's about the journey the journey of self-discovery and self-improvement. So how do you put a dollar amount on that?
Yeah, it's very hard.
Or what? They're clean up. We have to clean the mats after class.
Don't I pay you to do so? Can't you just pay for someone to do that? Furuya Sensei would be awesome. He would say like, oh, this person said, why do we have to clean the mats? It's part of your training. Can't we just pay someone to do it? He said, you're doing it. I don't need to pay someone. I have you. And the person's like, what? You know, but that's that transactional mindset. When you go to the yoga studio, you don't clean up afterwards.
Right.
You barely put the blocks away. You go to the gym, you don't mop up the place, and then someone asks you to wipe your sweat. You're, what? All incredulous. Mind your own business.
Right. Or rack your weights, for God's sake.
Yeah, rack your weights, wear your mask. Right now, people don't want to do that because you have the customer's mindset, which is, I got something for my money. I'm not getting my monies out of this.
So what like I mean, you're the head instructor, Mike and I are assistant instructors. What can teachers do, especially in that early training, like for someone who's a beginner? What can teachers do to help someone transition from the transactional mindset? Because I think that's what we're talking about, is transactional mindset, to the daily training mindset. Because I think what you're talking about is getting into this. It's almost like a Zen idea, right? Where you're really training and you're being in the moment, as opposed to worrying about, I'm coming in, my $5 to give Mike $5. He's going to teach me how to do a Riminage, and now I'm going to put a Riminage in my pocket.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's anything you can do, right? Because it's something where if I show you a whole bunch of crazy, great stuff, wow, and knock your socks off, inspire you, when that wears off, you go, I'm out of here. If I don't show you something and I tell you it's all toil, you go, doesn't sound fun, right? And so that's the hard part. There's really nothing you can say to them. Like a lot of martial arts schools, not many Aikido schools, but a lot of martial arts schools have professional salesmen at the door. And that's why they get you to sign a year contract, because they know in fitness...
It's like a couple of months.
In fitness, they say that most people leave within the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, like
and
2 months.
And then very few stay after 6 months. So the reason why they get you to sign that contract is so that somebody's paying the bills when just those 3 people are showing up.
Right.
The hard part about selling it is that you're having to convince someone of why they should train, which is not their own motives. Hi, John. Do you make the financial decisions in your house? Yes, I do make the financial decisions in my house. All right, so it costs this much money. Oh, I have to talk to my wife. John, I thought you said you make the financial decisions in your house. So, I mean, what's the truth? Well, yeah.
ABC.
ABC, always be closing, right? And so you get into this situation where now you're talking them into it. But what ends up happens is if you talk them into it, they realize that you bullshitted them, and then they want to leave.
Yeah.
But the thing is about that type of mindset is all students begin transactionally.
All students.
All students.
Yeah.
And it's from there that they grow to enjoy the process, and then they become real students. right? So in the beginning, how much is it? Can I afford that? Oh, I picked the dojo which is closest to my house and has the schedule that's in line with my
Most
schedule.
convenient.
Yeah. But then you grow to love it or like it, and then you become a student because you become a student of the game.
So when you say just become a student of the game and you go to like it, like we've been talking about what the transactional mindset is. So once someone starts to make that transition, what is what are sort of the key attributes of the student mindset when people start to make that transition, and the teachers help people make that transition? What are the things that are the strong attributes of the student mindset from your perspective as a chief instructor?
The strongest attribute is selflessness.
Selflessness.
So the other day when we had our seminar party, I noticed one of the new students was trying to take out the trash, and that she didn't know where the trash can was, so she was going out the front door out into, homeless people central. And I was like, hey, stop that person, because they didn't know where the trash can was.
Right.
But if she was trying to game me or making it transactional, like I'm going to do this so that the sensei sees me and then the sensei likes me, she would be like, where does the trash go?
Right.
And they'd make a big deal about it. But she didn't. I saw her with the trash, and then I saw her going out the wrong door, and I was like, hey, tell that person.
Right.
For one, we don't want her to get hurt outside trying to find the trash can outside with, 10,000 homeless people out front. But also that she was doing it for selfless reasons.
Right.
Right. And so those are the things you start to look for. Oh, that person didn't push their way to the front so they could clean and get out of here. That person let someone else dress in the dressing room when it was
First.
crowded.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, that person is becoming more selfless. Or as opposed to, the mind, it's not necessarily true, but it seems like it's true that the customer's mindset is a selfish person's mindset. I pay, I get.
Right.
Look, I paid my money. I paid $10 more than Bill. Why am I not at the front of the line?
Right.
And the first sensei would be like, you're at the back of the line then. I wish I could be like Free Sensei, where you just, every time people come up with their selfishness and their customer
they get
mindset,
their exact reverse of what they're asking for.
He slams them, and then they just like, I'll never do that again. And that's what used to happen.
Right.
What used to happen is you would come up to Free Sensei with your BS customer mindset, and then he would smack you down, and then you'd be like, well, I'll stop doing that. Or you just quit.
Yeah, or quit. Yeah. Quit would be the 75% chance situation. Yeah. People would quit.
And what I was saying before about how it begins transactionally, and then it moves to be more student based. We have to realize that most people don't understand traditional training. Mm-hmm. They don't understand the Japanese culture. They don't understand traditional training. They don't. Should I bow here? Now, am I bowing to a god? Am I? All those things, and they don't know. So instead of smiting them, you need to teach them.
Right.
Hey, the reason why you bow here is to create this mindfulness. The reason why you bow to O-sensei is not because you were bowing to this person to deify them. We're bowing to them as
respect,
a form of respect and gratefulness that this person created this thing which we use as a vehicle towards our own self-improvement.
Right.
And so, they don't understand. We don't, like in our dojo, we don't allow people to exit the mat without permission. It's because 20 years ago, Free Sensei heard this story about a student at an Aikido dojo who was feeling tired, exited the mat, went into the bathroom, had a heart attack and died.
Yeah.
And then 40 minutes later, they're like, hey, where did John go? And then they're looking all around for him, and they find him in the bathroom laid out with a heart attack. So that's one of the reasons why we don't allow students to exit the mat without permission. And the permission is just, oh, Sensei, I have to use the restroom. They go, oh, okay, do you need to go to the bathroom? Yeah. And then you look them in the eye.
Make sure they're okay.
Make sure they're okay, and not just, being prideful. And then you go, okay, and then you wait. And they go, oh, he's been in there for a while. Mm-hmm. Knock on the door, you all right?
Right.
Because you want to be you want to be there when they need you.
Right.
Not like, oh, I was talking on the mat with all my friends, and then I totally missed this boat, and then the person died in the bathroom.
It's interesting you say that, because I think that you say this word self-development. I think that one of the things that we've continued as a tradition here at the dojo, but I remember Furuya Sensei, he made it very important that even though dues were always made to be paid on time, and I worked a lot on the finances in the old dojo, but I never got the feeling that the dues were to be paid for the lessons.
No, and people did, but you didn't, because you've also been here for almost 30 years probably. Yeah. But that's that hard part. Like, if you think like I paid for these lessons, I want my money back. When people would try to get their money back after a week, we would say, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And then they get all upset and, do a charge back on us or something like that.
Did that happen sometimes? I wasn't aware of that.
Well, back in the old days, we didn't accept credit cards.
Right.
There was one person who joined for a year and didn't last a week. And they wanted the money back. And then, one of the students had to intervene, and we ended up giving them their money back.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have a strict no refund policy.
Right.
Because we did that so that the person forces you to have to at least spend the month here.
Right.
And then you're hoping within a month you go, it's not as I want to do Aikido. This is not what I thought. That's not as bad as I thought. No, I guess I'll still do Aikido.
But they got to get to that threshold first before they come to that realization, rather than making the decision too early and then possibly not being able to experience Aikido.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, trying to get them to have the student mindset and not the customer's mindset.
Do you think, this is a thought just popped in my mind as we're just sitting here talking about this. Do you think it makes a difference in the transactional versus student mindset that the dojo is a professional dojo versus a non-professional dojo?
I think it does. Well, it's not so
because I think it does. I mean, I have a theory on this, but I want to hear your point of view on this. Because it seems to me that professional dojo, it makes a difference.
Well, if you have like a professional dojo or a club type dojo isn't as serious as a professional dojo.
Right.
Like this, I run a professional dojo. Everybody here is serious about training.
Right.
As opposed to a person who's a club, I paid $20 to be here.
Right.
I did. It's adult school, so I paid the adult school $26.95 to be here. Like no, like you are paying to play.
Right.
Right. If you really want to experience Aikido and you want to get good at Aikido, you got to be at a professional dojo. You don't have to be. It's just that the mindset
is different.
I'm not trying to give you your money's worth.
I mean, maybe we talk. That's what I wanted. That's why I said that it came to my mind. I wanted to talk about is this idea that the way you teach can help someone get from the transactional to the student, and become, in a sense, have that Zen or that training in the moment. I think it makes sense for the three of us to talk more about what this professional mindset is. I mean, we, the three of us for sure have been in the dojo a very long time and trained under Furu Sensei, who has, created this professional dojo. What do you think is the key differentiator about what a professional dojo is? What is the edge that professionalism brings?
Well, generally, a professional dojo has a teacher that's been teaching for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
A club dojo, a person just started, they may or may not even be a black belt.
Right. It's just a group.
It's just a group, right? I was talking to Watanabe Sensei this morning about that. Like, Watanabe Sensei has like 34 years of Aikido training.
Jeez, is it that many now?
Well, I have 32.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's about 2 or 3 years ahead of me. So he's got like 34. So to develop yourself for 30-something years in order to disseminate this information back to another group of people, well, why would someone do that? Whether it's a club, you go, hey, today we're doing it, tomorrow we're not. There's a club has low overhead, right? They don't really make a lot of money. The guy or gal who teaches it because they feel like teaching it.
Mm.
But we're going to take a month off. It's not. If there's the level of seriousness in a professional school is higher than a club, and some people run professional schools inside it while still calling themselves clubs or in clubs. Even though they're professional, you could still be professional about it. But generally, like a YMCA or rec center, they're not as serious as a professional dojo. I know we talked about this
in the last podcast. I think you and I talked about this, but I think it's worth bringing up just briefly. Part of, I think, what this being the student professional dojo, I always think that it makes sense to come back to this, especially in Aikido, and it also has a little bit of a Zen flavor to it, though, is lineage. In our dojo and in some other dojos that are professional, there is this recognition of history. Don't you think?
Well, there is, and lineage is important, but it's not the only thing.
Right.
But lineage is important because you want to try to get the Aikido as closest to the source as possible. Right? And, in 20 generations,
Things change.
It'll change. But you're hoping at this level right now, you're hoping to get the Aikido as closest to the tap as possible. Like the other day, this gentleman emailed me from India wanting Aikido training and wanting to join our group. And I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. What's your, what do you do? What's your rank? Oh, I don't have any rank. Do you study Aikido? No, I don't study Aikido, but I really want to learn from you.
Wow.
This guy's in India. I'm in America. It's like, and I was like, quite honestly, it's going to be a little bit too hard for you.
Right.
From a professional standpoint.
Right.
Now, club, I could just, add them to our group. Hey, we got a dojo in India, but those people are going to suffer. Their Aikido is not going to be very good. And then my reputation as a professional Aikido teacher comes into play because, people call you on it because you have this school in which everybody's no good.
Right.
Right. So
you have to be mindful of that.
Yeah. And then lineage, one would hope that having a lineage which is closest to the source as possible enables you to teach Aikido as closely to the founder's Aikido.
At a high level.
Yeah. Well, or serious level.
Serious level.
Yeah.
Serious level.
So
one of the things that, if you're starting out and you're in a transactional mode, trying to transition into that student level, that's something that a young student can start to tap into, is understanding that.
Well, yeah, you're hoping, because the thing is that we're talking about deviations and standards, right? If you deviate 5% every year,
it's a lot.
Yeah, that deviation at the end is a lot. But if you 5% go back, 3%, 5%, and you're constantly going like this, because to bring yourself back, that's what lineage helps you do. You just go off on a tangent, and then, there's Aikido schools in this area that eliminated Ikkyo and Iriminage, 2 gold standard techniques, right? And then they go, well, I don't know if that's the best thing, or you just go off like that.
Right.
That's that thing is always going to be a deviation, but you're trying to keep that deviation as small as possible. And the more time you've trained, hopefully, the more time you train and the stronger your lineage, the easier it is to come back from deviation.
Right.
Rather, as if you have less training and less lineage, it's easier to drift away from the baseline.
Right. One of the things it's so funny that I think they're small things, but they're still here, but I remember them so vividly from our original dojo, were the little pieces of paper and posters that Sensei would put up around the dojo that I think kind of helped corral you into the student mentality. There's no time, train today.
Yeah.
Or I can only make one person happy a day. Today's not looking good. Tomorrow's not looking good either. Just train. And he was a Zen priest, so he used these sort of Zen kind of koans and put them all over the dojo, just like he put landmines all over the dojo. But it was interesting that I think that Furuya Sensei, and I think you do it now too, there's still some of these things around where the space is there to try to help you get into the mental space to train.
Well, that's everything in the dojo is like that. Cleaning, creating that purity is supposed to help the students get into a mental state which is conducive for learning. No distractions, no talking, no funny colored hair, no funny colored uniforms, no music. All those things are supposed to help you get into the mindset to learn rather than just distract you. Like the other day I was doing yoga at home on Peloton,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, this is kind of a cool song. And I went, oh, see that one moment I was distracted.
And you lost your mental
Yeah.
stability.
Because you got into the groove of the song while that was playing, and that some people think that you need to have music to distract you, while other people think that the music is there to
Focus you.
Yeah. Right. But like, that's the hard part. Largely, music is there to distract you. So you can get your mind off of the training.
Right.
So like in meditation, once I was meditating for like a long time. And then I was like, oh no, I've been humming this song in my mind.
So you weren't really...
How long have I been humming this song?
And you just realized it at that
I just
moment.
realized, like, oh, what a waste of a meditation session.
But like you were saying, this is something that's really different about our dojo. Like I think it's one of the most defining things because we've all traveled to other dojos around the world. Like, and it's similar to Hombu Dojo. We don't talk in class. Like that is like
very
the
little
defining.
Well, because talking in class distracts other people. Hey, so where are you from? Are you coming back? What's going on? Hey, you ever been to Kiyomizu-dera? What's up? Like, and then, are you tired? I used to say that. I used to be like, are you tired? No, then stop talking. But all mean. But
that's really like, I this isn't my first dojo. I trained in another dojo for a year before I came here, and then I came here, and it was one of the things I really noticed is that except in rare circumstances, there's no talking, and it really, I think that's one of the things it really helps to, like get the training. You're just moving your body.
Right. Well, that's what we talked about, that getting into a subconscious mode.
Right.
To where you're soaking this movement in subconsciously, over and over and over again. But you can't do that when someone goes, hey, you ever been to the brewery across the way?
Right.
What's your favorite beer? Is that your wife you came with? Like, hey man, like just trying to train. And so, Free Sensei being a Zen priest or, just being a serious person, we refrain from talking. And if you're going to talk, I would prefer people whispered.
Yeah. He didn't even talk that much. Occasionally he would make corrections, but he didn't talk that much during the class. He would demonstrate, have you train. You don't talk that much in class either.
I want to, and I used to, but I'm trying to get into the mindset of allowing people to learn it themselves.
Right. Which is hard, right?
Oh yeah, you stand there. Hey,
don't do that.
Hey, everybody. Hey, the hypotenuse of the 45-degree angle is in order to do this thing, and then when we touch this thing, it's the dewdrop from the universe that causes you to move it. You're like, whoa,
yeah,
too many words.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the funny thing. I'll read people's blogs, and inevitably I'll come across one that said, Kensho Furuya said, it's like the dew dropping from the leaf of the, and I was like, dude, he did not talk like that.
No.
He might have been a Zen priest, but he didn't get all like philosophical.
Like one finger pointing to the moon?
No,
that wasn't Free Sensei.
He did not.
He's clear cut, straight to the point.
Like, stand right there so I can punch you.
Poeticness.
Yeah, he did not wax poetically about these things. He might tell us a story.
Right.
But he's not waxing poetically. The movement is like the dew dropping from the earth onto your head, which allows you to lower down as the dew. And you're like, whoa, he didn't talk like that. Mm-mm. But then I read people's blogs and I'm all, oh, this person has missed the point.
Yeah.
And, but that's every person has those types of things in their lives. But that's the hard part. When you're trying to be a good student, it's really hard to be a good customer at the same time. You have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no, because that question mark of money, it's like when my dues are paid, it's just, I don't even consider it. It's just, okay, it goes in. Because that's what it takes to keep these doors open at this school to get the benefit of what we're getting. But if you're thinking, what am I going to get out of this? It's over.
Well, that's the thing is about the acquisition of learning lessons, right?
Right.
I could tell you stories about like when Free Sensei died and students would come to me privately. One student came to me and said, when Free Sensei was alive, I didn't cheat on my wife. But now that Free Sensei is gone, there's nothing keeping me from cheating on my wife.
Whoa.
And so I need to leave because there's nothing stopping me. And I was just like, aren't you like a 50-some-odd-year-old man? Like, haven't you got that out of your system yet? And like, how could you do that to your wife? And then he left. But he confided and said that now that Furuya Sensei is not here anymore, there's nothing holding me back. So I'm going to take off because I got a date. And you're like, whoa, dude. Like,
dang.
So, several students told me the exact same story, but different theme, right? Furuya Sensei would keep me from doing this. Furuya Sensei would keep me on the straight and narrow from that. And I think, no, you must choose to keep yourself on the straight and narrow.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because, you and I have talked about this particular thing. I think a lot of it came from doing Iaido, but I know that, not that I would do this anyways, but you'll be walking and maybe you're eating like a sandwich or a popsicle or whatever, and part of your wrapper will fall on the ground, and you're just like, I can't leave that. I can't let that not even a big piece, like tiny piece will fall on the ground, and you're like, I've got to pick it up. That's
the student's mindset.
Yes.
The customer's mindsets, they pay someone to clean that up.
Right. But it's funny because imagine you're in the dojo. If you drop something in the dojo and you didn't pick it up and Furuya you'd be crucified, murdered. But it's interesting because once you I think I grew up with good parents, and then I was not a messy person. I had good morals, but I think but you're talking about it not cheating on your wife, but I think there's this sense in which the responsibility, you're supposed to be a student is supposed to be a responsible person. I think that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're supposed, the martial artist, when people talk about what does it mean to be a martial artist, I think when I think of and it comes from a movie, but I think one of the greatest scenes of a martial artist, I think of the Seven Samurai, where the eldest samurai, in the very beginning, they're recruiting the samurai, and the soldier has gone into the little house and taken the girl hostage. Do you remember that scene? And the samurai dresses as a priest, shaves his head, and runs in without a weapon and gets the bandit to save the girl. And it's the act of helping a peasant who's been child has been kidnapped. That act of risking himself to save the child who's a peasant, that is what it means to be a samurai. Responsibility and compassion. Not fighting on the battlefield. That's really what it means to be a warrior, is compassion and responsibility. And I think that's what we try to, that kind of character.
Well, you're not an individual in the dojo anymore. You are part of a dojo. You are a member. You train with these other people. You're responsible for your safety. You're responsible for their safety. You're responsible for the proper care of the dojo. You're a member.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's where you can't transactionalize it. So in order to give up your life for another person, to save another person, you cannot go transaction, calculate. Yeah, about makes sense, because it doesn't make sense. You have to be able to. You have to in the Seven Samurai. You have to have the two rice balls, offer it, and then jump into the void and take control of the situation.
Right.
So you can't be on the battlefield and be calculating your mind, because if you're calculating, then you're going to make a mistake.
Right.
You have to move on instinct. And so when you're fighting all these people, I can't be thinking, oh, well, I don't really like Mike, so I'm going to calculate my way away from him so that he gets killed because he's my rival in the dojo.
Right.
That doesn't work. You don't fight like that. So this idea that you're going to have to move away from calculating, right? That akinai konjo, that you're going to only show respect when it's time to show respect, only do these things when it's your benefit. And then, but in the beginning, you're like that. Oh, I'm only, hi, sensei. Oh, yes, that was a great class today, as you suck up. But then later on, you're doing it not from that standpoint. So all etiquette and mindsets are fake in the beginning. And I got in this huge argument with Furuya Sensei about this.
Really?
Yeah. Because, he was saying that we had this student who was kind of weird, but really nice. I thought he was really nice. And he would be very respectful to Sensei, and he drew this whole Aikido thing on his backpack, and Sensei did not like him. And then at some point,
because he was weird,
because he was kind of strange.
Yeah.
And so Sensei kicked him out.
Ugh.
And then Sensei and I had this argument about it. And I said, he's very respectful. And Sensei said his respect is fake. He's just saying those things. And I was like, but it's all fake in the beginning.
Right.
And then Sensei's like, nope, we're kicking this person out. And it destroyed this person. And this same person carries 25 years later.
Grudge.
Not a grudge. This broken-hearted grudge against Sensei. And I tried to explain the person this idea of, tried to help him understand it. And that made it worse. He just started crying and ran away. And I was like, dude. But that's that thing, right? Like, it is all fake in the beginning, because unless you're from 16th century Japan,
you don't know.
And then you're like, "Hi, Sensei," doing all this stuff.
You're not from the culture. You don't understand the culture.
Yeah, I don't even understand it.
Yeah.
You're trying to mimic it from senior students, trying to figure it out as you go. So you're gonna.
I think one of the interesting things about it too, Mike, is that people looking at it from the outside are like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Either what the hell is that? Like, what are you doing? Or, oh my God, it's so romantic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't even try to explain it to my wife anymore. She just accepts it for what it is. That's what I do. And that's it.
But then, this is the thing in which you use as a tool to make yourself into a better person.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, it takes time. It takes time to get. If it was a number line, to go from like 0 to 20, to go from 0 to 2 takes a long time, and go from 2 to 20 takes a really long time.
Yeah, it's like if you had to lose 15 pounds, you could easily do it. But if someone who's grossly overweight, for them to lose 15 pounds is like this huge Herculean feat.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're not trained to do that. So that's why it's about cultivating this mindset that from the beginning it starts off as a customer. I paid my dues. I get this. But then the more you get, you start to realize, no, it's more than that. And actually, I'm getting the deal. See, before you're like, oh, is this a good deal for me? And it seems like they're getting the better deal.
Right.
But then after you give them the money and you start doing it, you realize, oh my God, I would pay 10 times this amount.
For what it is.
And that's why we started talking about this idea. If you knew you were going to get in the greatest shape of your life by the end of the year, would you pay 10 grand?
You pay more.
Right now you go, no. But then once you get it, you're supposed to go, yeah, I'd pay 10 times that to get to that level.
Right.
That I would get to this place in my life where I feel more grounded, I have more inner peace, or whatever it is you're searching for.
One of the things I was thinking about too is, we've all been talking about how like Aikido has been facing a challenge because all Aikido is having a hard time getting younger students, and we're having a lot of older students. What I've been thinking about is that a lot of the older students that join Aikido, many of them seem stronger mentally. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying what I notice is a lot of the students that start older, to me, seem like I am impressed. I'm like, oh my God, like if I tried to learn something else besides Aikido, something that was required a high level of skill like Aikido and a huge amount of mental humility like Aikido. Like I would, if I tried to start something like I'm 55 this year, and this is my 29th year in Aikido.
Wow.
If someone said to me, no, you're going to start Aikido this year, I'd be like, come on, no way.
And then you hit your head once and you're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, if I hit my head like I've hit my head many times in Aikido on a Riminage or Kokidosa.
Or someone blasts you on the mat with Koshinage.
Yeah. I'd be like, forget it.
You're like,
eject.
Even though now I'm like let's do it. But the thought of like me having to start a 29-year journey today with all the things that I've had to go through.
That's gonna end with you being 90?
Come on. I think of everyone who starts my age, hero status. But now add another 10. The guy who starts at 65. No, superhero status. The guy who starts at 70, double hero status. So I mean, yes, it's like, this is kind of off topic, but when I think of like the transactional versus the student and the kind of person who has to develop character, like a person who has the will, the selflessness to say, I'm going to train my mind and my body after I've already lived a certain amount of time. And you think of all the habits that you've built up by the time you're 55, and you're going to try to change yourself. Like that to me is like we have a huge challenge as teachers to try to like not accommodate, but like to teach these people who are, I think, super courageous. Like I'm like, I just say, wow.
They might be not looking at from the standpoint of, oh, I want to achieve this, but just coming on a daily basis and enjoying what they're doing. So
maybe they're less transactional, but I'm just saying, like, it's a new thing for Aikido to have to confront. But if we're talking about transactional versus student, I think if you look at them in that matrix, I think they fall in a lot of ways more on the student side because they're wiser.
Well, think about it from this standpoint. If your client, as a lawyer, your client gets sued, who's going to win? You or the other lawyer?
Me.
Why would you win?
Because I'm better. I'm more trained. I'm more experienced.
Right. And so you're worth the fee.
Yeah.
So in the old days, you would try to buy the best lawyer you could get.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Because hoping that person was the best.
Right.
And the best your money could buy, right? That's what I'm saying. That's the best your money can buy. Today, when someone looks at something, they don't really see, it's like they call it the death of the expert. Oh, Zoom or Zulilla or no, Zoom Legal? Yeah, I got my contract written by Zoom Legal. And then I got sued, and then I lost everything.
Yeah.
Right? But that's that thing that today you're hoping that the person who sees things as a customer or transactionally doesn't see them like people see it as the modern person.
Right.
Oh, bargaining for your fees. I'm an acupuncturist, and people are always bargaining me for my fees.
And you're like, this is crazy.
And I go like, dude, I have 15 years of
experience,
coursework, $150,000 worth of student debt, but then I'm paid less than a massage therapist.
Right.
For the amount of time that I went to school. So it's this idea that from the past, right? You went to the doctor, this is what the doctor's fees were.
Right.
You went to the lawyer, this is what the lawyer's fees were. You didn't say, I don't know. Would you take 20% less?
Right.
Yeah, there was no bargaining back and forth.
So there's a famous motivational speaker named Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh, I know Gary Vaynerchuk.
So,
Gary V.
Yeah.
Gary V. I saw him.
He's a very famous guy.
He goes to garage sales and then gets these awesome deals and then turns around and flips it on eBay.
Money.
He bought this box full of toy cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hot Wheels. He's bargaining with the guy. The guy says, $20. And he goes, you take 10? The guy goes, no, gotta stand firm at 20. And so they bargain back and forth, and then finally the guy's like, okay, I'll take 15. Gary Vee goes, great. Pulls out a 20 and goes, here you go. And the guy had to make the change for the 5. It's like, what the hell? Why is this guy bargaining with me? But that's the modern person's mindset.
Right.
The person of the old days would pull out 15. So to show that their bargaining was honest.
Right.
As opposed to Gary Vee, which I think he's a great motivational speaker. He got his deal
for 100.
Yeah, he got his deal by grinding on the person,
Right.
not realizing that this person you're not grinding on them to get a deal because you can't afford it. You're trying to get a deal.
Right.
And so the world becomes like that. But martial arts is not like that. Oh, Aikido Center Los Angeles charges this. This other dojo charges this. Oh, that's a little bit cheaper. I'll go over there.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I remember, how I ended up at this dojo. One of the things that my first teacher said to me, and I remember the story because you and I have talked about this, is my first teacher said to me, the most important thing to have is the best teacher that you can get in your martial arts. Like the teacher is the most important thing in martial arts. Doesn't matter where they are. If you have to drive 2 hours and you can only go to 2 classes, rather than the closest teacher in 4 classes drive and only go to 2 classes.
The number one question I get from outsiders when we talk about Aikido and where I train, they're like, isn't there a dojo closer? Because I tell them where it is, and they're like, you go that far to go to a dojo? Isn't there one closer?
So
And
that's how I ended up at Furuya Sensei's dojo, because my teacher said that he's the best teacher within like 3 hours. And that's where you have to train.
And that's the old school mentality.
Yeah.
That it's better to quit and do a different style because the teacher is better than choose an inferior teacher
That's easy.
that does your style, the schedule works for you or whatever it is. That the teacher, the quality of teacher is the most important.
Right.
So then,
And that's very traditional.
yeah. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, as the student's mindset or the consumer's mindset, which
Totally different.
Yeah.
That's the student's mindset.
That's a student mindset.
convenience.
That the birds of a feather flock together. One bad apple spoils a bunch. That if you're standing close to someone of caliber, you will become a person of caliber.
Right.
You know, they say if you want to know someone's true character, look at their friends.
Right.
Right? Because again, birds of a feather flock together. So standing next to a high quality teacher will only benefit you in the long run, as opposed to standing next to the person who is a little bit cheaper and the schedule works for you.
Right.
I mean, that's how I choose yoga schools. I go, does it work for my schedule? But I'm also not searching for a yoga teacher.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm just searching for
But
a workout.
martial arts, I mean, there's something very special about martial arts, but it's I think that a lot of that to me was when I was exposed to that, that idea, like you said, it's not even just in your style. It's like it could be you might have to switch.
I know people that switch genres and styles in martial arts and nationalities because there was a better teacher was close by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or not a good teacher wasn't close by.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part. Who has the gumption to do that?
Yeah.
Because remember, martial arts is just, hi-ya, kicking him in the face, punching him in the stomach. It's all the same.
Yeah.
It comes down to the training and that's why the old school teacher was only about how strict the teacher was.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it from how strict the teacher was, then it's the student's mindset. As opposed to, I give you this, you give me that.
Right.
Right? It doesn't work like that. It never adds up in traditional training. Traditional training never adds up.
You're using a word that I think has a consistent thread from our old school to the school we have now that you run, which is this idea of strictness. Can you elaborate on that? Because I think that is also, I don't want to say it's a synonym, but it's co-equal with this idea of traditional, best teacher, close to the lineage. Like these are all things that float in the same group of ideas. In your mind, how does the strictness play within that group of ideas that make the training beneficial for the student?
So if you think about this idea of consumer versus student, the customer wants the teacher to be nice and give them what they want. The student wants the teacher to be good and tell you the things that you don't want to hear, right? So a strict teacher, they say the best teacher is the one that's the most unreasonable.
Right.
It's unreasonable because they're not going to teach you the way you want to be taught. They're not going to teach you the things that you think should be taught. You come to me, I am the expert. Let me do my work. If I say this, trust me, this is the technique that is going to work for you. Well, I saw this thing on YouTube. Well, whatever. Go to YouTube and learn Aikido.
Right.
Well, you can't learn YouTube on Aikido. You can't learn Aikido on YouTube. Well, then let me teach the class.
Right.
But that strictness is that there's going to be things you're going to want to get away with. There's going to be things that you don't want to do. And the teacher has to have that strictness to say, I'm sorry, Bill, you have to do that thing.
Yeah.
You have to eat your vegetables first. Oh, no, I want to eat my ice cream first. No, you will eat your vegetables first.
Right. Yeah. And does that tie into like one of the things I think the three of us have grown up with this in this dojo is the Aikido Center of Los Angeles is very strong in focusing on basics. And I think a lot of people that come here from other schools or they start training here, the training is very, very basic. And I think some people get surprised by that.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Everyone knows how to lose weight. You know, as when I was a trainer, people would say, "When am I supposed to eat?" What? Yeah, no, but I always used to say, you know what to eat.
Right.
Everybody knows what you can't eat.
Right.
Everybody knows you can't lose weight eating hamburgers and French fries. Everybody knows that. It's not rocket science. But you don't want to hear that.
Right.
You want to hear, like one time I told one of my clients, he said, "What should I eat? I love chocolate ice cream." And I said, "Okay, then only eat chocolate ice cream. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, only eat chocolate ice cream. But you're only allowed to eat chocolate ice cream." But see, what would that do? That strictness of only eating chocolate ice cream, the person would lose weight because they're not allowed to eat anything else. And after a while, you can only eat so much chocolate ice cream.
You can't eat a
so
lot.
you got 2 scoops for breakfast, 2 scoops for dinner, 2 scoops for lunch, you know, and then how much weight did you lose? Because all you ate was chocolate ice cream.
Sorry to laugh so much. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, you can tell that was my personality when people ask me things. But yeah, but that's that hard part. The teacher has to have the strictness to tell you the things that you don't want to hear and make you do the things you don't want to do. You know, like I'm smaller than my peers, but I have to do the same techniques as them.
Right.
One of the ones I hate doing is yokomanuchi omote. So the person strikes and you have to iri in because I'm so much shorter that they just crush me with it. But you have to
do it.
You have to find a way. You know, when people ask me, they say, "What's your favorite technique?" I say, "I don't have a favorite technique." Right. They go, "What techniques are you the best at?" And I go, "I don't have one that I'm the best at. I'm pretty good at most techniques."
Right.
Because it's just movement. The problem I have is all mental. Don't get mad. Don't lose your temper. Don't get angry. Right. But that's the hard part, right? Like it's the strictness of the teacher which forces you to do the things that you don't want to do, which enable you to get good.
Yeah.
If I told you as your college professor, you don't need to read any books, what's the likelihood you're going to get a good grade on the final?
0.
Very low, right? Every once in a while, you have this person that just gets really good grade because they're super smart or good at taking standardized tests. But most of us would fail.
Yeah.
So someone has to be there to say, you need to read this book. You need to attend these lectures. But a customer-based teacher, a business teacher would just say, "Oh, no, whatever you want to do, Bill." But then they're going to hurt you because when the time comes for you to use this Aikido on the street or in an opportunity to save your spouse's life, you're going to go on all week.
Yeah.
And then when you go on all week, it's not going to work. And you can't go, it's always easier to dial it back than it is to dial it up.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? The 8-minute abs, 6-minute abs.
Yeah, that's a whole set. What if you came with 6-minute abs? 6-minute abs, you can't even get a bill of sweat. Step in my office, you're fired. Yeah, that was funny from Something About Mary. But it's true. If you want it faster, fun, and crazier, it usually doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, fancy techniques almost always fail.
Yeah.
You know, if you'd be lucky, you know, to kick someone in the head when it's a higher percentage of success if you just kick him in the leg.
Right.
But oh man, it looks so darn cool when you kick him in the head.
Yeah.
So everyone goes for the gold, right?
Fancy.
And that's where you start to really look at this idea of competition versus traditional. Traditional, you wouldn't go for a head
kick. Yeah.
You could.
But it opens you up to a lot of other crap.
But then, so you really put all this time and energy into a leg kick. I don't want a leg kick, man. I want to look good. I want to look good. And that's the funny thing if you think about, you know, not to go off on a tangent about abs. In the old days, you see these masters, a lot of them old school, we're not talking about modern day. We're talking about 100 years ago. None of them had abs.
Yeah.
And shouldn't they? Food was scarce back then. You know, people didn't have as much abundance as we do today. So wouldn't they all be homeless, shredded?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you drive by the homeless person, you're like, damn, he's got abs. Man, his pecs are...
What program is he on?
Yeah, what program is this guy on? He got some huge shoulders and abs. Well, he pushes a shopping cart all day long around downtown LA, dodging cars, cops, and other people.
And he's constantly on a caloric deficit.
Yeah. And so he's shredded. But what ends up happening, right, is that if you look at these people, you know, 100 years ago, they all don't have abs. In fact, the obi sits better if you have a little bit of a gut. When you have an obi and a sword, it fits better when you have a little bit of a gut. But if you look at these people today, like, and Bruce Lee is probably one of the people that
Most
ushered
famous.
in this idea that you have to be all yoked and have these great abs. And I think I remember I told you that story about when I was eating dinner with Sensei once, and I said, "Oh, no rice for me." And he said,
"You have to eat a whole bowl every
"You
day."
have to eat a ramen bowl full of rice every day." And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to gain all this weight," But that's that idea that having abs makes you a better martial artist. It doesn't. Well, but then if you go farther across that line, having a huge gut doesn't
Not so
mean you're a
good
better
either.
martial artist either. It's about having that balance, not being too overweight, not being too underweight, And so, but it's that strictness. If we bring it back to this idea of strictness and the consumer, oh, my Aikido teacher's got a 6-pack abs. Oh, that's nice. What is it? What's going on upstairs? How technically oriented is this person? Like right now, I have this private client doing Aikido. Maybe it's like his 5th session, and he said, "Hey, can I ask you a question?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Sure." He said, "What do you do if someone punches you?" And then I quickly said, "You do this, you do this." Remember the technique I showed you the other day? Yeah. You would do this. If they do this, you do this. Same technique. Got it? Yeah. All right. So anyways, and then we went back to traditional training. And he was like, "Oh." And then later on he said, "What do you do if someone, how do you fend someone off?" And then I said, "Okay, based on the sword, your hands have to go together. Create a kamae like this." And then I showed him really quickly how to shift his body in the kamae. Okay, back to traditional training. But he's my private student, so then he can ask all those
Or
questions.
he can just ask questions.
And then I said, "Oh, it's like this." I didn't go, "No questions." Or just punch him in the face. Think about it. Come back tomorrow. And when you've thought about it, right? And quintessentially, think about this whole training of Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san. Daniel-san's painting the fence, painting the wall, wax on, wax off. And then only when Mr. Miyagi brings it all together does Daniel-san realize, oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah, this guy's taking advantage of me, make me paint his fences and wash his cars.
He said, "I'm being your damn errand boy." Right? And then Mr. Miyagi's like, "Ah!" And then Daniel's blocking. You go, "Oh my God, I got all this thing." But that's the hard part. A student has to stay long enough to go, "Sensei, I ain't learned nothing." And then I slap him, and then he blocks it. And he goes, "Oh."
I learned it. Yeah.
Like there's this really great scene in Killing Machine with Sonny Chiba, where he has a one-armed student, and then the one-armed student is feeling bad about himself. He's getting drunk, and then Sonny Chiba goes over there, and he's supposed to be Master So, the founder of Shorinji Kempo. And so the guy's getting all drunk, and everyone's like trying to calm the guy down because he's all upset. And Sonny Chiba comes in and then tells everybody, "Don't worry, I got this." Grabs the guy, just slaps him across the face as hard as he can. And the guy's got one arm. Throws him down, body slams him, throws him, kicks him, hits him, and just starts beating this one-armed dude out in the rain. And everybody's just like, "What are you doing?" And then there's this one point where Sonny Chiba goes to hit him, and the guy blocks and counter punches with the one hand. And then Sonny Chiba just like jumps back in the kamae, and then there's blood coming out of his mouth, and he's like, "See, you can still do it." And then the student's like looking at his own face, "Master!" and starts crying. We don't usually get that opportunity
Right.
with the student, where they finally see it all come full circle,
Right.
and they go, "Oh my gosh!" It's only years and years and years later when you're chased down the street by 4 thugs and you defend yourself. And you go, "Oh, I did learn something." "Oh, well, I told my teacher to F off and I burnt the school down." "Well, but I mean, I guess I was wrong." Right? Like there's nothing more expensive than regret.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part. If you think of things as transactionally, like a consumer or a customer, then you're always going to be calculating what you got out of it, what's your deal. But as a student, you can't calculate it because it can't see it. But only later do you realize that you're not the person that you were when you first started.
Yeah, for sure.
And then how much would you pay to be this person that changed and became so much greater than you were? That's
The other problem is that so much time goes by, you forget the person you were.
Yeah. Well, that's that thing. That's the idea. Every 6 years, you have a shift in consciousness. Right now we just opened up, full, no masks, no vaccinations, no nothing, right? We are back to the way it was 2 years ago.
So amazing.
But
that 2 years has gone by.
doesn't 2 years ago or COVID feel like a lifetime ago? That first year of COVID, it seems like a lifetime ago. That's that shift in consciousness. And that's why
it's hard to believe those 2 years went by. That first 6 months was
terrifying.
Was terrible.
Yeah.
It was absolutely
I was
terrible.
like, don't you talk in my direct, Bill, hey, cough over there, man. Right? And then you're like, no, I swallowed some food wrong. Get out of here.
Get 6 feet back.
COVID monger. You know, or you hand me an envelope and I'm like, is this thing sterile? Did you sterilize it in the sterilizer?
Did you spray it?
Dude, put it in the UV light. So leave all the groceries outside. Right?
We're doing all that outdoor Aikido.
But the thing is, but doesn't it seem like a lifetime ago?
Mm-hmm.
But that's that shift in consciousness, right? You shift your consciousness. All the stuff we learned throughout the pandemic benefited us for today. Yeah. But it seems like a lifetime ago because our consciousness has already moved on.
Yeah.
And so that's the hard part. If you're going to think of things as, okay, today I went to class, I didn't get my money's worth. Okay, I should probably get back 10% of my dues. And you go the next week, oh, that was a really great class. I would have paid 20% more. And then you're at the end of the month, Sensei, you owe me 50% of the dues back because I didn't get what I thought I would get. You're never going to learn that way. Mm-mm. You just have to bear down and toil and get good at this thing, no matter how much it costs.
Yeah.
But with the mindset of the student and not the mindset of the customer. This is not, as Sensei would say, this is not Burger King. You can't have it your way.
Well, I think that's probably a good spot for us to finish. It's I think it's we've mined this topic.
Hopefully, we've mined this topic.
I think we've mined this topic, and we've got Mike back from the brink.
Yeah,
hopefully,
I'm back.
You're back. Ready? It's our second season, which I still can't believe it's our second season. How many podcasts have we done now?
18 total.
Oh my God, I can't believe it's 18.
It doesn't seem like that much.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy. All right, well, thank you for watching or listening. We appreciate it. If you have any comments, questions, or a topic you'd like us to cover,
please.
Send us a message in the comments or on Facebook or social media. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.